So our normal class goes, we will continue from there. And like I said, I prefer using this part because I want us to make a documentation of the code we are working on, so that we can always reference back to it. So first and foremost, we are going to be looking at let's work on, we stopped at there, but let's work on something like a grouped categorical data, where we put the bar into groups and not like stack. Last time we did on stack, we did bar color, we do bar label, and then here let's work on aspect of stack. So in that case, we are here and following the normal way. I have to use Jupyter Lab. So for me to use Jupyter Lab, so I have to go into terminal here and then call Jupyter Lab, which is going to open in my browser. So on that, I'm going to click on terminal, and this is the terminal here. I have 1 and 2, so let me just use the second one, and then I'm going to type Jupyter Lab. No, it's wrong. So Jupyter Lab, and then that is going to launch for me the Jupyter Lab, and then it's linked in, and then we are finally here. So I open up to my local hosts, and if you go here to this, you can see the Matplotlib here. So for this, I am going to right click here. This is the Matplotlib. I'm going to go in here and go to new and say here to the new notepad, the same way we used to do, and then it is going to create new one for me. I can select the canal and I will go say yes. I can also right click here to rename it, and probably we are going to be doing group, that's group bar chart. Yeah, so this is group bar chart, and that is done. So from the way we were actually working on, so we can import the data we want and how we want it. So but our aim is to have a kind of a group bar chart. Now using our normal way, so we need to make import of, that is, we import matplotlib.py, that's matplotlib.py, that is py plot. As you can use anything you want, but the conventional way is plt, because if I use here as dx or df, whatever I use, that is perfectly going to work. But the only thing is that where we call matplotlib, so we need to put it there as that same way. So what I mean is, I'm just going back to this because we trying to revise it. If I make this matplotlib as king, so it means that at any place we want to use matplotlib, we have to replace that plt with kings. So but normally, the default way that it is showed is using plt. So the different ways we can do it. So the next thing is we need, because we are going to use number, we are going to import the numpy as np. Like I said, np is just like a normal way. You can just replace it with something, but you also need to, anytime you want to work on it where you have np, you need to also replace that np with every other code. Like what I mean is, if you look at the last code we have here, and you see here we use plot mat, here we use this code which plotted this. Assuming I want to do the same thing, I can copy it and return back here. Now let me go like this. First let me close this up, so we have a bigger surface, and let me reduce the size, and I've closed the other tab, so let me reopen it, which is group plot bar. Okay, this is it here. So let me close up this and close up this launcher, and I have this here. So assuming I want to, let me add the code down here and paste this. What I'm trying to explain is that if you look at this code, if I run this particular code, I am going to have the result which is going to look like this. But I'm saying that assuming I want to use here as king, so it means that any place I see plt, as you see plt.show here, I used to also replace it with king. And then you see here I put plt here, I also need to replace it with king. So any place I see plt, I need to replace that with king. So with that, if I run the same code, I'm still going to get the same result, because this is just like a way of saying matplotlib as, meaning that you want to replace, where you see matplotlib name is as king, so automatically any place you have plt, replace it as lib. Or nevertheless, you can also remove this mat as, and then only have matplotlib dot py dot plot. Then you copy this, let me copy it rightly. When you copy this same place you have king, replace it with matplotlib. Where you have king here, also replace it with matplotlib. Where do you have other matplotlib again? So with this, if you run the same code, you're going to get the right result. So what I'm trying to say is the matplotlib as plt is just a short form of a way we can replace that particular data. So it means that where you have this, you can also replace with this. It doesn't matter, but the thing is that, you know, it takes a long time to write matplotlib, as you can see here. So it's better you just say plt.show. It is easier than saying matplotlib.show. So this is just all about it. So it's just like revise, putting our brain back, because we have been using that before. So in this part, assuming you want to have a kind of a stack plot that comes together, and I think where we do color bar, what was the last example we use? We can use our name the way we used our name last time. We can also use in aspect of grouping, but let's say we want to change the code to something related to us. First and foremost, we can decide to say class. Now I'm going to use classes as what we have as a class of land cover. So let me assume we have built up area, and then we also have water, and then we also have bare soil, and then we also have something like vegetation. Then we also have what other classes again do we have? So you give me one of the classes you can remember in land cover. Are we still together? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so which other classes again can you remember?
Urban.
So let's now go ahead with urban. So now when we go to urban, so we close it up like this. And then another thing is that we need to put them in different categories like the way it is. Now what are the categories we can put them? So we can put them in different categories, like let's say for example, let's put year here, and then in year we need to like say what is the best class, since we want to put them in categories and we want to do a kind of grouping. Who can tell me the best data, like kind of data structure that we're supposed to be? Because we want to put them in category. In category in the sense that we want to group the changes over the years. Is anybody that can help us?
Trying to remember the name.
Yeah, so
What's the question?
so I am going ahead now, since we are still trying to remember the name. so that I can go ahead and
He was
say,
asking for the. He was asking the question.
yeah, I was asking the question. I was saying, what type of data, like kind of structure data, what type of array, like how do we store our data to be perfectly, since we are talking about different variables.
Uh, set.
Yeah, so
Um,
we can use dictionary.
dictionary. I thought so.
Yes, because we want to put this in different years. So a dictionary is supposed to have a key and values. You remember? And
Eh?
a dictionary starts with this, a curly
Yeah.
bracket. So since we want to
Okay.
categorize into year 2000, year 2001, year 2002, so we don't need to like uh, probably 2010, because we're doing 10 years interval, for example, and we want to categorize this data into different uh, way. So what is the best way we need to use? So the best way we can use is to use, let's say, dictionary, because the dictionary will store the key, and the key become the year, and the values become the different changes in built up area and waterways. Is that okay? Okay, yeah, so on this way, we're going to use, like, let's say 14.90 as like 14.98, sorry. Then we're also going for, this is for built up area. Then we also go for, let's say, water body, let's say 11.4. Let's say in aspect of bare soil, let's say 30 point something. And in aspect of vegetation, let's say 50, let's say 17.0. And in aspect of urban, let's make it 25.0. Then with this, the next thing we need to do is that we need to close it up and then comma. The next thing we need to do is that since we are putting it in this category, I can copy this, and then when I go here, press enter, I'll paste for 2010, press enter, and I'll paste for 2020. So I can make a kind of editing. Let's say that the build up area increased to 15 to 16, and then in 2020 it increased to 17. Then the water body reduces, for example, and then it keep on reducing. Let's make it 9. And then the bare soil also reduces, so let's say 29, and here it reduces to 20. Then the vegetation also reduce to 11, and this year it reduces to 6. Then the urban area keep on expanding, let's say it is 33, and then here it is 35. So we are using this as an example, and once you get to the end of it, so what do you need to do? You also now cover it, and then you go down and you can close it with curly bracket. Now this have defined the data you are going to work on. Then in that case, let's start with defining how it is going to be arranged. So in this aspect of arrange, so let's say that in the x direction, because we're supposed to make it in the x direction, so we are going to have the np, which is the numpy. Dot means the numpy that we want it to now do arrange, so which is going to make it arrange it the way it's going to be. So let's arrange it by the length of this, which is length 1, length 2, 3, 4, and 5, which is 5 in that order. So let us arrange it with the name of the classes. So we need to arrange it into classes, which is the classes we have. So that is the number, that is the label, the location, how it's going to put it up. Then what else can we also make this looks? So let us also change the width of the bar into, let's say, 0.5, and then this is the length of the size of the bar, how it's going to be. And then let's also make it like multiplier. So let us now make a kind of multiplier and let it be into 0. And then what else do we need to do? We define the figure, so which is figure of ax, the axis is equal to, we now do the plt. Because we put plt here, we also need to put the plt here. Then since this is going to be like a way it's going to come, so since it is plt, so we are going to use the subplot, which we have talked about subplot before. So we are going to use the subplot there, subplot, and then we need to define how do we want it to be, how do we want the layers to be. So in subplot, you can, like I said, you can always go to the implementation, where you need to know what is there. So by clicking on the kind of this, you go to the implementation, you're able to see the rest of other things you can add to it. If you're using PyCharm here, you can always go to PyCharm here. When you click a particular thing, let's say for example you say plot show, then you can always go to the implementation. Implementation now gives you more knowledge about how this is done, what can you pass into that, and how is that going to work for you. So assuming you are working on a particular list and you want to know what other things argument can you pass into it, with implementation you can interact with it and see how they are documented and able to get information about how you are going to write your code. So in this, since we are working the subplot, so let's at least make it like, let's put on the layout, and then let's call the layout like constant trend. So we go to constant, and then after then, so we need to now define how we want it to do. So let's go with the attribute. So let's assume that the attribute and the measurements, how we want it to show us, how do we want to place all of them. So let's go with that. For the attribute that we want, also how we want it to look like, as all of them in this particular year that we are looking at, how do we want it to look. So we want to iterate those items and put them the way they want. So in that, we can now say like attribute of each of them with the measurements which we have, or with the values we have. Then in this case, we now need to now iterate each of them, and each of them we are going to iterate is as according to the year which we have actually called on. And in that year, so we need to append it with the items. You remember the way we worked on the last one? So when we append it with the items, then the next thing we need to do, since we are iterating for each of them, remember that in here we have actually, like inside here, we have actually defined like the attribute. We have, sorry, I made a mistake here. We have actually trying to get the attribute of each of these measurement as related to which is this, each of the value we have 1 2 3 4 5 as related corresponding to the class. So remember that every item you have here supposed to correspond with this. So if it is not up to 5, that means there is problem, so you are likely going to get issue on it. So with this, I can also make an offset, which I am going to say that the offset we are going to have between each other is going to be with the width, the size of this which we have defined, and we can also multiply by 0. So this will help us not to have a kind of compacting. So the size of the width, which we can also done by multiply by, that is the reason why we define this, because we don't want it to close up here. So when we multiply that, so we can also get the values by also get the rectangle, and the rectangle which we want to get, which we want it to cover around it. The rectangle is going to be, so let's use the rect keyword, and when we use the rect keyword, it is also going to be the axis of x, because the rect that I want to do is going to be the axis of x. So, and we are looking for it to be a bar, because in the axis of x it's going to form the rectangle, and in that place it is going to be in the bar, not bar. Remember what we said earlier, that when you have bar h, it means that it is going to be a horizontal, but when you just have a bar, it is going to be vertical. That is bar only, the direction is going to be the vertical. So now the bar, then you add it with the offset, and then the measurement you are going to use, which is generally what we have here. So I'm just going to copy this measurement, which is each of these values we have. Now when you get these values, the measurement, then you also need to append it with the width which we are going to work on. And we also need, let's say we want to label it, remember the attribute which we have here, like we have named this as an attribute. For this attribute, which is this, as you see each of them, each of them, so we also need to label it with the attribute. So what kind would be the best way to label it? Let us label it with the attribute, because each of the attribute we want to label. If you don't want to label it, it's just for you, you can remove this particular aspect because you don't want to label. But since we want to label it, so we can now label it with the attribute. Now if we label it with that attribute, so this is just like the way he wanted to show. And then remember that we are still working on it as related to the bar, so we still need to continue with, after labeling with attribute, we also need to like go to the bar label, because we are still dealing with bar as bar, not bar, because bar bh is the horizontal, the making it horizontal, but want it to be in vertical form. So in this way, since we have defined the rectangle, so we still need to continue and call the bar as we want it to be, so that it should also label it, that's the bar. You should also label it with each of the rectangles, and that rectangles we need to put the rects as we have here. And then labeling with the rectangle, we can also do the padding, which is what is he going to pad it with. So let's make it like 2, let's make it like 3, because each of them, like year 1, this is 2000, 2010, and 2020. Each of them have a three values. So in that way, we can also put other things we want to put, if you want to put it like how you want to label it. But in this way, it means that at this point in time, which we have done this labeling, we can also try to case, let's say for example, where we have for this, let's go back a bit and say plt dot show, and let's try running this. And when we run this, they says that we have an error. The keyword that we use there, which is supposed to be constant, so work constraint, which is going to be CO3N, that's supposed to be COS because it is constrained. And then what is the problem? It says the dict object has no attribute item. So what is the problem here? Who can tell me what is the problem here? Are we still together?
Yes, we are.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I know probably we might be finding it difficult because it has been like 2 years. Those two few days looks like 2 years, right? No, went on break. So I'm
No lie.
saying, yeah, I'm saying here now that we have this, it is telling me that in line 5, that is in cell 5, line 14, that there is an issue here, which means that for attribute measurement in item, that there is a problem there. I'm asking, who remember what happened when we're doing iterating in the items like elements? So who can remember what is the problem here from this line 14? And the line 14 is this line, which I'm going to select. Is there any idea?
scroll up a bit. Item. Think
Okay, the problem here is that it is not an item, but an items. Is that okay?
no, I didn't get what you said.
It is item, not items. No, it is items, not items. Sorry.
It's items.
Yeah, not item.
Okay.
Yeah, and that is the problem we were
Okay.
having. And as you can see, so probably you see this, it is now overlapping with each other anyway. But let's look for a value that we are going to make it better than what it is. So we have this and we have this 3017. Then let's make this one is smaller because it is in the order format. So let's change this to something bigger. Let me change where I have this to 2. Let me change where I have 2, this to 2, and this is 3. Let me change here to 4. Let me also change here to 40, change here to 4, then change here to 6 and 35, and let me also run it again. And you see now we have a kind of better visualization. But even at that, this is better than the other one, so it is not really showing us in stack format. So let me now find what is the problem. So in this one, we have defined the models we want to use, and we also define the classes. Then these classes we added 5 items there, which is 1 2 3 4 5. And then in the aspect of the year, so we decide to use the year 2000, which this label is 0 1 2 3 4 5. And then we can choose to label it by what we have here as classes. So in this way, we have defined the year, which is correct, using dictionary to store them. And then after storing it like that, so we use L to now make a kind of arrange into the length of the classes. Then after then we define the width to be 0 point, so let's make it 0 0.3. And then after defining the width, we now make a kind of multiplier, and then this is where we define on how it's going to look. And then the fix of the x, we plotted, we have a kind of a subplot, which we say we put it up to this cost trend. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to get what the multiplier was actually for.
Okay, what the multiplier was actually, so we define
The
it
what here?
yeah, we define it to 0. The multiplier, if you look down, you can call it anything, but the multiplier itself is what we want to use in the attribute. The offset, it is in any number, so we didn't want it because the width, the offset we want to get between here, the offset we want to get, if you didn't multiply by 0, it will not cancel, so it will not be a grouped, it is going to be like patch with each other. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, if you
It's going
don't
to be
put it,
joined with
yeah,
each
it's
other.
supposed, if you
Not
don't put
just-
it that way, it's going to be joining. So
Okay.
the 0 now take it off and then give it that space instead of it merging together. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. I'm actually
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to be able to show you what I'm trying to say and what I'm trying to explain. But I just wanted to like us to review the code and then see why like the way it is. And then this is what I'm trying to say here. Now that multiplier gives it a space between each of them. Now for example, if I say here, let me take in the multiplier here, because when you remember when we say something like when something is plus here, let's say you say plus equal to 1, when we're treating arithmetic, that is numbers. You remember this, if we say this is equal to 1, what is going to happen is that it will keep on adding this. There you go. Because if you say here, remember when we make multiplication of the, we treated this part in majorly, we do it when we're doing double. You remember where we can use it to increase number. When we're doing iteration, we use it to make a kind of increase in these numbers. So now what it means is that when you put the multiplier 0, so it means that don't put up anything. But when you put the multiplier 1, it means that where you have a kind of count, like what I put in here, that it should be plus 2. So you remember the index. So this is 1, 2. This is also space it up because it is cancelling with 0. 1, 2, space it up again. 1, 2, space it up again. 1, and it has finished. So in this order, if I change this multiplier now to 0 as it is plus 0, which is definitely going to give us this kind of a thing. So it cancels this. There is no space that is given between them because each of these class category, what does it do? It merges it on top of each other. So you can see where this stop, this where this stop, where this stop, this where this stop. But what happened is that because we are making the multiplier, which giving us this different kind of space here, this measurement here where we are multiplying the width here with the multiplier, so it is 0. So it cancels it because 0 multiplied that is going off. But when you add it with 1 here and run the same code, you see definitely that it's going to put 1, 2, 3. It put it up 1, 2, 3. This is 1. All of them are together because it's after then it add 1. Remember we say split it here up here. So what it's going to do is the first group is 1, 2, 3. It stops. The second group is 1, 2, 3. It stops. The third group is 1, 2, 3. It stops. So the same way. So if you change that multiplier here, which is here to 2, and run the same code again, you see that it does the same thing. What is the counting? So it does this counting here 1, 2. It gives up this space even though it grouped it into here, but there is a kind of 1, 2, 3 blue. The green again comes in here. Now it is now merging the remaining this thing up here with each other. So it is now counting to, if you remove these two here, the multiplier, and let's put it into 3 and run the same code, now you see the kind of merging it's making. So you have this here, this is again, and they keep on putting it on each other. So but the best approach is because since it is adding up a 1 and it's supposed to follow in that order, remember you have a 3 here, so it's supposed to put 1, 2, 3 and they group it. So in that way you're supposed to put it up here this way, so having these values on its own. I don't know why you get what I'm trying to say. Sterling?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, if you don't get, we can also make a kind of explanation again. But now I'm trying to make this look nice. So this is now in this grouping. This is what this means. This is 2020. But now we did not label it. So therefore it is going to assume a number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember our counting? Our counting says 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 means it is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's pick 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 because its index starts with 0, like it started with 0. So we can make other modification on this. How do we make other modification? Now to make other modification is that we can also label them. So in labeling, we go to ax dot, we set which word we want to set. Let's start with y, x label or y label. So whatever I want to make it, you go ahead and do that. Remember we have said bar label and we say label it, that is padded by 3, and then with the rectangle, which is what it's doing for us here. So in this way, let's also make y label here. What do we want to label in y? Label and what we want to label in Y. So we can also what we want to label in Y is the Y axis, and the Y axis we can say area in hectare, for example. And then if you run the code, you able to see the area in hectare. What is the problem? It says there is nothing like Y label. Yes, because it's supposed to be set underscore Y, and we run it like this, and you can see the area in hectare here. Then we can also do the same thing as we have talked about before. Ax dot, we still say set underscore title, and then we open it up. We can say here, and we can say land cover, land use analysis for 2000 and 2000, 2010 and 2020 here, and we close this up. And if we run the same thing like we have talked earlier, you can see the title up here. Now, why do we always, everybody prefer sometimes using code than using maybe Excel or ArcGIS to make this kind of display? The reason is this: you see the way you plot this. Assuming you have another work as related to this, you can just remove the data and replace it, run it again, and it is done. All this labeling you're doing, there's no need you doing them again. All you just need is reply, as in copy, replace this code, and it is done. So we are going to go how we can import this file, add it here. If you have an Excel sheet, you just attach it here and run it automatically. This is done for you. So it have this ability of reusing it. Now let us also make a kind of label on it, showing like this is what we want to get. For example, if you look here, you see that one is somewhere here. I want this Y here, that is up here, to be at maybe where I want it to be. So in that way, I can also add another parameter here, which I am going to say ax underscore, we say set, that is ax, sorry, dot set underscore the ticks. Now when we are setting the x, the ticks, so we are going to set, we're going to say the x ticks. And when we say the x ticks, so we are going to use x. Remember our x up here, which is the classes. So we are going to use the classes, and then we are also going to now like add it with the width, which we have actually defined, and that is depending on the width we have. Then the next thing we need to do after adding up the width, we can also go down to where we have and say label with the classes. Remember our classes is the name of the land cover, like how we put it up. So we write it like classes, yeah, class only. And then when we do this, you should be able to attach this with the tick on it and put it vegetation urban as it is. Now with this, we have actually set the x tick, which is this tick you are seeing here, and we say set it with the width, which is this width we are having here, which we have defined as 0.3, and we say again, then label the tick which you have set with what classes. Assuming I want to label the tick with what we have said with year, what do you think that will happen? Let's say we change this thing to year and then run the same code again. What thing that will happen? Because there is so much year, we are going to have 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. But remember, there is year that we have in dictionary, so this won't be able to give us that kind of label. So in that way, it's supposed to be this dot class, because class is only standing on its own. So this is going to give us the class we want to label it, and here we have the class as year. Now I want to ask question: who can remember a way I can turn this thing into horizontal? Like maybe I want to make it turn 70 degree or 90 degree. Who remember how we talk about this, or we have forgotten?
Used by each.
Okay, so that is way. So if you go here and add each here, and then you run this here, and what are you going to have? You're going to have it in this pattern. But you see the problem now, they here, this is compacted. So in that way, what are you going to do here? X tick, you can make this here, and if you run the same code, what are you going to have? You have it like this. You get the point now.
Yes.
So this is this, and this is that. So with this, you see now we have the horizontal here. You change this into X and Y, and this is giving you perfectly like this. So this is the way it goes in this way, and this one goes in this way. So if you want to still return it back, you press this instead of here. What is it? 1 and 2. The two things we change, and we can run the same code again, and everything will return back here. Then where we have X tick here, we change this X tick instead of bar H, we change it to bar, and we run the same code again, and that's going to return back to this. Remember, we put here area in hectare, and then down here is the classes. Do the same thing we do here. If you want also to put up the label, see the way we put area in hectare, you can also copy this here and make a copy, and then paste this here and say yx here will be x label, and then the x label we can make this here and say, let's say, classes of land cover land use. And then with this, if you run the same code again, you should be able to. What did I do wrong, please? My village people. Okay, I've seen it, so I did not put this close up, and then when you run it, you're able to have this showing you down here perfectly. So this is a perfect way of getting this. Let me make this 1 because it is approximating it to. Let it be a bit uniform. The places I have 0, I just have to put something there, and 4. So which we can also make it say give me in this different decimal places. So this is a way this is done, and then you can also make, what else do we need to make again? Assuming you want to tell us what is here now, there is something incomplete here. We have an incomplete statement here because this blue, red, and orange, blue, orange, and green does not have a label. So for us to have a label, we can now add a label, and the way to add a label that we know is that we say ax.legend, then you will run and close, and if you run this, it's going to put the legend for you. What did I do wrong? I didn't write it well, but let me assume it is called legend, not legend. So if you look here, you see that it have added the legend here for us, which automatically, because of the legend, it knows where what is labeling it to. It put it a kind of uh, automatic pick they call and put there. Assuming you want to pass parameters into the legend, what can you pass parameters into legend? You can define where it is going to locate with location. In location, you can, there are different types of location. If I want to put it top here, top left, I can say upper left, right? I think that is the right keyword. So let me check upper left and run the same thing. Yeah, that is upper left. You can see here upper left. Now we have lower left, which is going to come down to be here, down here. Then if I want to put it at the center, that should be, the keyword is center, right? No, it's supposed to be a kind, this is a center here which comes to the center, but we're supposed to say upper center, which supposed to put it up here for us. I don't know whether we are together. Are we together?
Yes, yeah. I'm sure.
Okay, so now this
Yes,
is upper
please.
center, so we can make it upper left. Then another thing we can do is, assuming we want it to come in columns, so we can say n columns, and then the number of columns can be, if you make it 2, what do you think that will happen? Then it's going to run and give it like this: 1 2, because one, you have to count 1 2 before it goes to 3. If you say that the number of columns have to be 3, that means it's going to come in parallel, so having this thing 1 2 3. So automatically it recognizes that. And then what else again can you do? You can also limit how, where is going to be. Like here we have 60. Assuming I want to make it 70, I can also make it 70. How do I make it 70? Remember what we did last time. I can show a then I'm going to set it, which I'm going to set under y limit. If I say, sorry, if I say y limit, remember we are going to pass it that we want it to range between 0 to, let's say the highest number is 65, so we can make it 0 to 65, and we run the same code again. Then you see that it's going to have a 0 to 65. This is 60 here to 65. Since it is 10 10, so let's make it 0 to 70. So I'm going to put it 0 to 70, and you see that it's going to range from 0 to 70. So this is a way we can do our limit, the way we're doing our limit. So this is perfectly a way to get it done. And so this is grid. So you see, with this, I have added a grid to it, and I can define how the grid is going to look by using AS grid. Remember what I said, that implementation here supposed to also show you help. See the way I put here, and I say grid. Now what am I supposed to look? I now have to read the documentation. Axis, you see the option for it. If I want to know more about the grid, I can now look for the information about the grid and able to customize it better than what it is. So this is a way you can make this is grid. Now the grid here, as a signature said here. Now if I say grid here and I pass visible, that means I need to say visible and I say equals to none. I don't know whether we understand what I'm trying to say here when I'm saying or trying to help, to find a help. So this is a way to find help. Which one do you want to have? This is axis, which is major, axis both. So you can pass this thing into it. When you say visible, you say none. But if I say visible, I think the p word, I'm not sure this, but the keyword for this supposed to be, I'm not sure. I can check it in the other one, but there's a way we can, you can actually blank it off. Or what I'm trying to say, you see this, the way it graded it, because I put AS grid, and then this is axis. Which axis is it, major, or which axis again is it, both? And then you can also put up this. So if you read more of this, you will be able to understand more as related to this. Now in that grid, you can also pass a kind of information like this. Let me give you an example of what I'm trying to say about the documentation. Like this documentation you see here, I can say in axis, where do I want the axis to be? For example, if I say axis and I pass major or both, for example, if you look here, this keyword says major here, x and y. Assuming I want to pass the axis and I say both, what is going to happen is going to be on the both. If I want it x only, I can put it x. But now there is a place that says grid. If I go in here to the grid here and I say color and I say equal to and I say r, what do you think that will happen? So it is going to have here, what happened? So what is going to happen here is that the grid is going to be red. How do I know that? Because I read the documentation here. Somewhere here, they said that if I pass, somewhere here, they say that if I pass R to it, I will have what? Red. Then here they said if I say line weight to 2, look at it here. If I go here and copy this code here as it is and pass that argument into this argument into it where I have this. Let me take it off here and then paste it here, and then you see now that if I run the code, it's going to have the red, you see it here, and it's also going to have the line dot, you see the type of line dot here, and if you want to have width of 2, if I pick the width 0.5, now also check whether does it accept float. You also need to know. If I run it, you can see that the grid becomes smaller. As you can see, it's a bit smaller than what it is. It's very, very small. If I pass it 0.01 and 0.1 and I run it now, you can see it very fainty on it. And if I want to change the color that I have here to black, I'll put K, and that's going to run it and give me and this in black. Now this is a way you can prepare this kind of a kind of group bar chart, and then you'll be able to make a kind of plotting. Do you have any question? I take time to explain this because we have stayed a very long time without like not a very long time anyway, but some of us have actually forgotten it, and it is necessary we talk about it very extensive like this. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so if we're okay, I want us to quickly, we still have a bit time, so let's talk about, I'm just going to make a kind of copy code. So I'm going to copy this and then I'm going to paste it here. Though I've imported it, there's no need of copying this because I've defined it in the beginning, that's supposed to work. But why I want to put it up there is because we need to like have a kind of understanding on this, because as I said, if I don't want to put import this, I've already imported it before, so there might be no need of me trying to make a kind of import again because I've done that already. So in this I'm going to start up here, and I'm going to put under here, I'm going to work on, I'm looking for this, so I'm going to, let's work on a categorical variable. So let's do this, and then we put a categorical variable. Now in categorical variable, remember here, change this code to markdown, and then when you select it and press shift enter, that's going to make you a new title. And then let's say that we have, for example, we have let's say we are no more beginner, let's say class as we are, and then the class here that we have here today is, for example, we have Pablo, and then Pablo is a very good millionaire, so we have about 10 million. And then me here, and then I am also not as rich as Pablo, but in some ways I used to have about let's say I have 2 million. Then let's say that also Sterling is here, so let's say Sterling is a businesswoman, so she have more money than Pablo. And then Erus is also another rich man, he have money than Sterling, so let's assume we know that Erus have about 46 million. And since he have that kind of money, so let's close it up here. What was the problem here? The problem is that Pablo is supposed to be a dictionary. Sorry. So it's supposed to Pablo dictionary, Chekatu, Sterling, and what is missing? Okay, I've seen it. Sterling was the problem. So I'll go down to Sterling here, and that's automatically make it up that way. So we have different this kind of categories, but we now says that we want to put this our names and the money we have. So let's put our names up here. So I'm going to say that our names that we are going to have is equals to the list. Remember the way we make a conversion. So we have to convert the data from what it is as it is to another thing, so to a list. So for us to do that, we use list and call those in the class, and then with the key, and the key we have here is Pablo. Remember, the keys we have here is Pablo, Shaker, Sterling, and Erus. So we want to call these keys, and then also what do we want you have. So let's say the money we have, so our net worth. So let's say that our net worth, is that we also convert the dictionary that we have in here into the data, so which we are going to say the data, and we are going to say the data which we have, which is the class we have there, because it is called the class. So we go there into the class and we say dot values, which you remember how we get the keys and value. So we say now the values. Now for us to plot this, we can also say the figure which we have the ax, which the axis. Then we are going to say that is going to do the subplot, su subplot. Then we are going to make a subplot. What are we going to plot? We are going to make a subplot of 1, 2. That is, we have how many categories of people there. So let's make a kind of subplot of 1, 2, 3. So let's make a subplot of 1 into 3. And then what else do we need to do again? We also need to define the figure, the figure size. So in defining the figure size is going to be fig size. And in the figure size, how are we going to make it? So we have 2, we have 45, we have a lot of numbers. So let's assume any number, we are going to change that. So let's say this, and then since this is this, let's also make it 3. That's the figure size that we want to have, and we close it up. Then how do we want also to get it in the aspect of whether we want it to have in the xy axis? So we can use the keyword which we are going to share, and we say that that is actually going to be true. And then in this, we have this as a true. Then what else do we need to do? Now let's put these figures where we want it to be, wherever those figures, wherever we want the figures to be. So we can put the figures in this axis they want to be. So in that aspect, so let's now say that the axl is equal to, for the figure 1, sorry, now we are trying to assess what is inside it. Let's start with the 0 and we close it up. And for the figure 1, let's use a different bar, a different type of plot. So we can use bar as a different kind of plot. So what do we want to plot? We want to plot the class which we have defined into our name and our net worth. So in that way, so we are going to say copy here and paste the name, and we also want to plot what, our net worth. So let me also copy the net worth, copy and paste, and then we now close it up like this. So with this, we can now make a kind of plot. So if you want a subtitle, so we can put up the name as it is. So if you run this particular code, you see that the subplot is not defined. Subplot, this is subplot is not defined because we did not say plot it. That is why it is not defined. So we go in here, it says the container contain this. So what I'm trying to say is that how do we make a kind of variation, this kind of this, in what we have? It says the container object of 4 artists. So in this we have this. Then what do? We plotted Erus have more money, is me that doesn't have money. So we can plot this in this by using the indexing. Now we can also plot this here. If I want to put the B, I need to change this thing to the item of 1, and I can also plot this aspect horizontally here, and if I run it, I'll get the second aspect in horizontal form. You can see the way it goes into horizontal, but I don't want to go into horizontal. I still want to maintain it in vertical. So if I put bar and run it again, I will have the same value that I have in both sides. But because I want to plot in different this, I can say scatter, and then if I run the code, we have done scatter before, you can see the same thing, but it is plotted in scattered form. Now the same thing, I want to access it, I want it to be in scattered form. I can copy also and paste it here, and then when we say scatter, we can also say plot. Remember, plot will give us this, and then you have this as plot. You see it is joining with line, but I want it to work here. Instead of me putting one here, I'm going to put two here, and then that is going to run. Remember the indexing, and it's going to put out a scatter in different places. So this is a way you can bring the same kind of work you are doing in a different format at the same time. So if you also want to change the number, remember that here that we have here as a rows which goes 1 2 3 4 here, and then you remember we say 1 row 3 column. So if I change this, remember this is 1 2 3 4. If I change this now to 4, what is going to happen? If I run the same code again, it's going to create another column here for me, meaning that I want to put another thing here, assuming that this is supposed to work here, and you say here, for example, I run the same code here. If that's supposed to work, but it's not going to work because the bar below cannot be converted to a chart. So in that way, we need to retain it like the way it is. So we are using bar. I think the last one we used was plot. And then if you run it, it's going to come like this. Now if I want to remove this, if I want to make it 2 by 2 the way it is, I can decide to change here to 2 row by 2 column. If I leave it like this and run it, I'm going to have it into 2, which is going to be empty. So is that okay? But because I want just to use 3, I'm going to make it into 3 like this, and that's going to do the work for me, and that is completely done. Is that okay? Any question?
No,
Okay, so
none from me.
okay, what about what about Sterling and Erus? So if all of us are good, so we are closing up here. We just have 6 minutes to close up, and in that way we can just make something like a kind of, like I said, a kind of revision, because we are going to go deeper into this. So on this, we're going to make a copy of this same code, which we might choose not to use it because we have already run it in the beginning, and then we have worked before. Remember, we have used this before. So I want to assume that this is a vegetation. I'm going to copy it here, and then I'm going to paste it here, and then I'm also going to go here to say 2010. Let me use 2020, which is here, and I'm going to make a copy, and I'm coming down here to also to paste this here. So what am I supposed to do? Because this is a kind of this, I'm going to change this thing here, because remember the rule of variable, they are not supposed to use this. So I'm going to say year 2020, which I'm going to use separate by underscore, and then here I'm going to put up this in aspect of words, so whichever way I want to put it up. So I want to put it in this, so this goes in here as it is, sorry, so this goes in here from what it is down to here. Then I can close this, and from here I can also make a kind of plotting where I'm going to say ax, which is axis, and I want to plot it equals to plt, which remember the pi, and I will say sub plots, and then open and close. I will go down again, and and I will say ax dot I is a keyword, then plot the what, plot this here. I'll make a copy and then paste it, and then I'll also say label it by what. So I'm going to label it by what am I going to label it? So label it by class. Then I'll close it up and then I'll run the code, and it's supposed to give me. So there is a mistake. The first thing is that the name subplot is not defined, so it's supposed to be plt subplot. And let me run it again, and it says the name year 2000 is not found. The reason is because we did not define the size, so this is supposed to be equal to, and then let's run it again, and it says unexpected label, so it's often supposed to be label, it's supposed to be labels. And then we run it again, and then it shows us this, but it's saying something. It plotted the text area and the rest of them, so it have to divide it into whatever it is, and then this is what it gives us as what it is. So this is a perfect way we can. This can also be replaced if it is a list here, and let me also run this, and then this is going to give us like this, like a list. And you can also remove this here and then run the same code again, and you are going to have this as well. So this is a way you can plot a bar chart. And assuming you want to label this thing inside it like the way it is, and we want to make a label that is inside it the way, like the way this thing is, so we can quickly copy this code and still say the same thing. But when you are labeling now, the class are the way it is, so you need to change this part here where you have this, and then just need to add, say something, and say author. And then when you say author etc, so it's going to be like you use this keyword, which is this percentage of 1.1 places which you want. So you're going to say one significant figure, then you close up this, and when you run this code right now, you're going to have this label inside here as 1 decimal figure. You can see here it is not labeled here, but inside here is labeled. Remember that I am trying to use something like a kind of a way of showing it. So if I want to make it 2 significant figure, I will change this into 2 significant figure, and if I run the same code again, you see that is a 2 into significant figure. So this is a way you can get it done. And if you want to make a kind of if you want to make a kind of a kind of a kind of slides inside them to make it show you in different ways. So you can also copy the same code which you put here, and then when you finish with the labels here, so let's assume you want to make it. So when you finish with the label, you can also say, instead of you putting a kind of way, so if I want to put a kind, because this is a default color, let me say that I want to put up here, and I say that I want it a color, so I can say colors. Now in the colors, remember to put the colors in lists. Now so you open a bracket and put the color in list. Now it have to be the same number of lists. So let's say that you want to put the color in that list, so you can say, for example, you can say R, which is red, you say comma, you go to blue, which is blue, you say comma, you go to yellow, which is Y, you say comma, then you go to black, which is K, you say comma, then which other code again, so we can use green, K, you say close it, you say comma, then you go up again to G, which is green, you say comma. Then when you run the code now, this is supposed to be open parenthesis, yes, so we're supposed to close the parenthesis as making it as a list. Then when you run this and it says this was not closed, what was not closed is supposed to have another closing bracket here. And then when you run this again, it says parental argument follow the keyword argument. So how many did I put? I think I'm making a mistake somewhere, so let me check here. I supposed to have only one, but the color here supposed to be a list equal to and then let me run it again, and this saying that the color unexpected keyword. So the color unexpected keyword is here red, here blue, here yellow, here black, here green, and then let's go again. What did he say? He says pi axis got an unexpected keyword color. Sorry, I was not wrong in the first place. It's supposed to be colors, not color, and then this is supposed to give us the color as it is. So you can see here, assuming you know in Nigeria we use built up area as red, urban as green as vegetation. So I can make this one as green and then color. So now I am assigning a particular color to it. So this is a way you can assign color to it. You can also make a kind of labeling, a copy, and then I'm going down and then make a kind of labeling, like if you want to also plot it and say how do you want it. There are several keywords you can pass to it, but assuming you want to show how it is going to be, like this, we are going to do this when we are doing a kind of main map, but for now let me explain what I'm saying. Assuming you want to hatch it, you can also hatch this. For example, I want to hash the first one with, let's say, stars. So let me make this as a star, and then I put 0. Then with this I can hatch the first one, and then I go the second one. How do I want the second one to be? I can also hatch it with circle. So let me hatch this with circle. Sorry. Then what else do I want to do again? I want to do the second one. I want to make the second one with small circle, so I can actually make it something like this. Then the fourth one, I want to put it with something like a kind of backslide one side of it, so I can also say this, and I say here, I can say dot here, and I can also make it a kind of here, and I can make it with a kind of double this, and then I say dot, sorry, dot, and then I will also close it up. And since it is 4 positional, I can also hash it with a way of saying here, then dot, and I can make this into 2, and I can also say dot and close it up. So with this is a way of making a hash, as you see. Now what does it happen? You see the first one here, I put 0, then it is going to put that dot, as you can see here. I've hashed this one, the last one, built up area. The saying that the local this string, since it is byte in 3.4, become an error. So this is a kind of things you see here. This is a dot sign that you see here, which is this dot sign you see here. Look at this dot sign, you have dot something here. So assuming you put it with V, let's see what happens here. Then you have something that looks like this, the way. So this is the way you can make a kind of hatch as parts the way you want to make it. Now if you look here, you see I make this thing as hash here. What if I change this kind of hash here to something like this, and then let's run the same code again, and you see that these have changed it to a particular stars. You can see the different kind of changes it happens. So this is a way you can make a kind of hash on this as it is. So you can make a kind of hash, and then also here where you have this, let me use this example. Remember that here when you add this code down here and you paste this code again, which I'm going to paste, and you want to swap it the way you have what you have in the other, you remember sorry, there is a place. Okay, let me use this code here. Let me make a copy, and then I think I was trying to use it here or here, so I think it is here because I've not run this code. So let me paste this. For example, the places I was trying to change it, hash this, which the ways, let me run this to explain what I'm saying. You see, when I run this, it label this in inside. What if somebody asks me, I want this label to go inside and this have to come outside? What am I supposed to do? In that way, I need to say here and say, for example, I need to say that the peaks, then here I need to make it like a distance is going to be equal to, let's give it a space of 1.5, and then we are also going to say the label, there's the label distance is going to be what? Let's make this the label distance as 0.5 as well. So let's make it 0.5. Now let us run this code. You see that this was 0.5 and this was swapped. This is in and the other one was out. Now if you look at the label distance 0.5, what if I make this 0.1 and run the same code again? It is going to come in here close to each other. Now the best thing I think it is better is let's leave it at 0.5 and change this one at 1.5 to be 1. If you run the code, you see now that the label here come closer to the body of this. So this is a way you can make a kind of swap. And we have also talked about exploding, which we are not going to talk about again. So with the moment you type explode, that is going to give you what you want inside there. Just the same way we have been saying. So if that's the same thing we talked about, if you want to explode this one, for example, I can just go here and say duplicate this down, and when I duplicate it, the way I duplicate, I can make a kind of changes here and probably pass a keyword to it, and the keyword like explode and rest of that. So if it is that way, I can now define what I want to explode and explode it that way, and then that is going to work. So this is just what we have been talking about, and then remember we can also change the shape or how it looks. But basically this is what we have been saying for some time now. So if you have any question, you can ask me, because this is actually a very good of it today. And if you have any question you want to ask me, you can go ahead and ask me.